Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Mi, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. With all the mysteries that we've seen throughout One Piece, there is one essential piece of the puzzle that involves events of the Lost Century and perhaps the origin of the sun god Nika. And this is of course talking about Joy Boy. Now his past still remains unknown, but it could be something exceptionally crucial to the overall story of what we have in One Piece. Throughout the story, we've seen fragments of Joy Boy's past scattered throughout the world, but the real cause of why he lost his life could be only known to one person who's still alive, and this person may have even caused Joy Boy's end and has stayed alive up to the present day. In today's video, we're going to talk about the large possibilities that involve Joy Boy, who he might have been in the past, and who are the people responsible for taking his life and consequently try to control his fruit. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, we'd be absolutely honored if you consider leaving us a like or even subscribing with a comment letting us know what you thought about the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make new videos, and if you want to help the channel out even more, consider sharing the video with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So to begin our story, we're going to go back to the Lost Century, where one day a man named Joy Boy appeared. Now it's not really known if Joy Boy was his real name, as it could have been a nickname to hide his real name that was possibly part of the D-Clan. Joy Boy could have been the king, or at least an important person to the ancient kingdom, which was a very prosperous and united kingdom. But even though his kingdom was a peaceful place, he had to have been dissatisfied because he knew of all the other evils that existed in the world. Now we don't really know what life was like during the Void Century, but it probably could have been much worse than the present times, because there were so many more warring factions that really hadn't been settled and turned into the world government. So there had to have been disputes and fights going all over the place. But as we also know, the world government is currently responsible for maintaining what they call the balance of power between the people. Yet they support and allow all the evil acts of the celestial dragons, who really don't tend to descend from their holy and heavenly kingdom unless they're up to no good. But in the times of the Void Century, the world of One Piece was controlled by 21 different kingdoms, each having a different leader that ruled their own way, and without the interference of one whole government, there's no telling what could have happened between all the different reigning kingdoms. So during his reign, Joy Boy may have come across the devil fruit of the sun god, and because he had this great desire to help people who are suffering in other realms, or perhaps the fruit itself motivated him even more, he was able to awaken the devil fruit. With this awakening, he would have then acquired the great will of Nika and become a great light in this immense era of darkness that inhabited the world of One Piece. And Joy Boy, even more importantly, now possessed the power he'd always desired, the ability to be able to bring freedom and smiles to all the other people. So Joy Boy would have left his kingdom to travel all around the world to the other kingdoms that were being held by evil and corrupt leaders. But because Joy Boy did this would have raised his recognition, and this would have been one of the reasons that all the other kingdoms decided to come together to keep their power. With the power of the Nika Nika fruit, Joy Boy would have become incredibly strong, or as the Gorosei said, ridiculously strong, able to defeat any opponent in any way he wished, and could have achieved the goal he so desperately desired, which was a peaceful world in which everyone could live in freedom. And it possibly was through this Hito Hito no Mi mythical model Nika that Joy Boy may have become a person so well known throughout the world for his achievements, but it may have also been the reason he hid his real identity. And also, people might not have even recognized his real name, but really the title which he was called, because he had the fruit of the sun god that many called the sun god Nika. And this would have been represented by all of his laughter that he brought everywhere, and that he always sought to bring joy to people. But because of this great fame, many kingdoms may have become enraged by Joy Boy's actions, and many leaders might have become irritated that he had been interfering with their plans. So Joy Boy may have become that great enemy to all the kingdoms that oppressed their people and sought to rule with iron fists. But Joy Boy, for his part, during his massive journey in freedom, he had to have come across riches or legendary powers and all of these things that he acquired as he met and freed people. And so he had to come up with some kind of place where he could keep all of these precious belongings safe, so that no one could end up using them for their own benefit. A hidden and incredibly safe place. And this unbelievably hard place to find, where he kept his beautiful and wonderful treasures, he made it so that only the person who possessed the fruit of the sun god would ever have the ability to get it. So then he names his treasure the One Piece. And this treasure would in fact be the greatest treasure in existence. And many kingdoms knew about the legend of this treasure, and many might say that it was a giant amount of gold or jewels, or that the treasure could make a kingdom kingdom prosperous for many eons. While other ambitious kingdoms might have said that the treasure possessed the ability to give one divine powers who obtained it, and so this would have given the One Piece treasure a special kind of mystique that would have made all the other kingdoms covet it highly. As the years passed by during his journey to bring freedom, Joy Boy met an elephant that he named Zunisha, and they became great friends. So Zunisha accompanied Joy Boy on his journey for quite a long time, because Zunisha admired Joy Boy's noble acts trying to bring help to all those that needed it. But even though he had this great admiration, many in the community believed that Zunisha may have also had a great envy of Joy Boy. So because Joy Boy had become the chosen one to carry the name and the will of a deity, and because of the great treasure that Joy Boy knew the location of, and with each and every incredible achievement that Joy Boy managed to achieve, this made Zunisha's jealousy grow even greater, until someone appeared in Joy Boy and Zunisha's life. This mysterious person would be the character who called himself Im-sama, someone who could live for a long time and has always been keeping an eye on Joy Boy, always analyzing his powers and capabilities that he demonstrated during his journey. For Im-sama was on the prowl after Joy Boy for quite a long time. We know that Joy Boy made a promise to the fisherman and that he wasn't able to keep his promise, but this promise would have been made during his mission as the sun god. And in a legend in Fishman Island, people did mention persons with straw hats, and in this case, it could have been Joy Boy's. We also know that Im-sama to this day keeps a gigantic straw hat in a frozen vault, so this hat could have belonged to Joy Boy, and that's why he was mentioned as a very big man, besides being the companion of a gigantic elephant. But getting back to the story, after a while of watching them, Im-sama would have realized the envy that Joy Boy's companion possessed, and then hatched a plan that would completely change the course of the world. For Im-sama would begin to manipulate Zunisha. Through lies and manipulation, Im-sama may have slowly fed the jealousy within Zunisha's mind, all so he could obtain the power that was in Joy Boy's treasure. Now, once Im knew that Zunisha would stand against Joy Boy, they began to move their plan forward. And so while Joy Boy was on an island of men, Im-sama revealed Joy Boy's true identity to the 20 kingdoms. And when Im-sama shared that Nika, the sun god, was Joy Boy, and Joy Boy was someone important from the ancient kingdom, upon hearing this, the other 20 kingdoms would have rallied together, as they probably suspected that the ancient kingdom was the one using the One Piece treasure to stay prosperous and could attack them at any time. But if they could get this treasure and control it, their kingdoms would also get great riches, and through this union, they ended up attacking the ancient kingdom to try and get the riches of the One Piece. Now, it's also possible that during this attack, Joy Boy was helping the fishmen get Noah to the surface, but once he heard the news that his kingdom was under attack, he would have quickly left everything behind. So Joy Boy leaves his poneglyph with his apologies to the king of the fishmen, and then leaves with Zunisha to the ancient kingdom. And during his return to the kingdom, Im-sama and Zunisha set a trap for Joy Boy. In this trap, Zunisha takes Joy Boy directly to Im-sama so that they have to face each other while his kingdom is being completely destroyed. And while Im-sama and Joy Boy were fighting, Zunisha may have just watched the whole thing or even helped. You see, since Joy Boy possessed such greater power than Im-sama, he could have been able to have the upper hand in the fight. So with Joy Boy being able to defeat Im-sama, it turned into the trap where Im-sama had Zunisha stop Joy Boy from fighting. And if Zunisha ended Joy Boy's life, they would be surviving and obviously regret everything had happened. And then Zunisha would receive their curse, the curse to walk the earth until the new sun god appeared. And when that moment arrived, Zunisha would be the one to guide that person so that he or she could follow the same path as Joy Boy, being the one to reveal to the chosen one Joy Boy's true mission, and which was only known to those who could read the poneglyphs. But until that time, Zunisha would wander aimlessly all these long years until the fruit of the sun god chose someone else to inherit his will, and then at that moment, Joy Boy could possibly return. Meanwhile, the world government would rise out of the ashes of the ancient kingdom, and Im-sama would have accomplished their goal and could control the entire world. And because Im-sama knew about the devil fruit of the sun god Nika, he would make it the world government's goal to capture and control it so that they could keep the fruit dormant and Nika would never emerge, and no one would ever get in the ways of their future plans. And because Im-sama was trusted by the 20 kingdoms to give them information about the man who had been causing so much trouble in their kingdoms, he founded the world government and led them alongside the Gorosei. Through this organization, he would guide, or rather manipulate, the other 20 realms into obeying him exclusively so that Im-sama could maintain control over the entire world. What Im-sama didn't bet on or realize is that the fruit of the sun god possessed a certain self-consciousness, so that any time the world government tried to get it in its clutches, it somehow managed to escape and get its way to a new owner. And after a time, a story begins in which we meet a young boy who managed to obtain this legendary power and went on a journey to become king of the pirates, without ever realizing he had had a great prophecy already destined for him. This is one of our favorite theories so far, but we'd love to know what you think about it. Do you think Im-sama could have turned Zunisha against Joy Boy? Do you think Joy Boy even came from the ancient kingdom? Let us know in the comments below. So as we close our video, we'd like to thank you so much for watching the video until the very end. Make sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you've made it this far, give us a like as you head on to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in the next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.